It was a battle for the ages in Neville this weekend, but Auburn still came out on top. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for giving us a listen today. Joining me as he does every single week is my guy, Dave Shoemake from SEC Unfiltered, to talk about his power rankings. Dave, you had some movement in your power rankings this week, and I want to jump right into what you guys got going on over at SEC Unfiltered. Love your power rankings, by the way, my friend. Last week, Auburn at number 1. Alabama at 2, Florida at 3, Kentucky at 4, Tennessee at 5, Ole Miss. We had some movement here in this area this week. State at 7, Texas A&M at 8, Missouri at 9. I'm not sure what to make of this team, and we'll talk about that in a second. Georgia at 10, Vandy at 11, Oklahoma at 12. And then we talk about this bottom 4 every week. Texas, LSU, Arkansas, South Carolina. Surprisingly, Calipari's Razorbacks at the bottom of the conference consistently week in and week out. Moving into this week, movement. Tennessee hops up into that top 4. You dropped Kentucky down. As a matter of fact, you dropped Kentucky down significantly. As a matter of fact, They might be the biggest losers this week. Biggest winner, Missouri.
Missouri for sure, biggest winner.
Yeah, to 5 in these rankings. Look, let's get into it here. The fall of Kentucky, right? What did you see from the Wildcats, and why did you drop them so far?
I mean, they've lost 2 straight. Again, they only played 1 game last week. So they had that midweek bye similar to Auburn had last week. I don't know. They're so right now as we speak. I mean, they're so beat up. I mean, Andrew Carr's hurt. I think they're kind of alpha type dog guy, and Kirk Risa is still out. They need him to come back at some point. I think he's got a groin injury. They need him to come back. So I think right now they're just a little banged up. Lamont Butler's got some nitpicky stuff. One of the best on-ball defenders in the league. One of the better point guards coming over San Diego State. So they're just nicked up. They lost at Vanderbilt. Defense, I think, is not going to get fit. I think just it kind of is what it is. They're just going to have to go out and score people. And when they have guys on the bench that are some of their better scorers, again, it doesn't bode well from I guess moving up in the power rankings here at the SEC Unfiltered. So again, I moved them back, and I was sitting there doing it yesterday. I was like, God, I did have them dropping far, but I look ahead and I'm like, Vandy's playing better basketball than them right now. I mean, I have them just ahead of Ole Miss. We got Missouri's playing better basketball. Obviously, the original top 4: Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee's playing better basketball. Now we got a big matchup tomorrow, though. Mike, I mean, Kentucky travels to Tennessee. Tennessee's got a big overall week. So, I mean, tomorrow will be a massive matchup for both Tennessee and Kentucky. Yeah.
If you're Tennessee, obviously you're coming off a close road loss to Auburn. And so you definitely want to not lose again. After
Tennessee's in the midst of that 3-game stretch at Auburn, Kentucky at home, Florida at home this week.
Oof, boy, brutal. The SEC. If
they went 2-1, they'd be jacked.
For reference, in the conference right now, Kentucky is 9th in the conference. They're down there.
Yeah.
In terms of conference standing.
And a lot of that's because of injuries. I'm kind of just I mean, that's just the way they're playing. And defensively, I think they are who they are.
But let's talk about the meteoric rise of Missouri. This was a team that Auburn blew out. Talk to me about Missouri, man. What are you seeing here that made you so confident to jump them so far up the power rankings this week?
I kind of like this unit they play across the board. From they force a bunch of turnovers. They kind of do things that translate every night. And again, I think they're going to be a tough out at home. On the road, again, you can say this about any team in the league, as you know, Mike. When you go into the environments like Neville, Thompson-Boling Arena, I mean, obviously Rupp, stuff like that. Memorial, we've seen it back-to-back weeks, wins against Tennessee and Kentucky there. It's going to be hard to collect road wins. But I do think Missouri's going to hold a lot of – I think they're going to do well at home this year. I don't think they'll finish 5th, if I'm being honest. That's just kind of where I have them sitting right now. Again, they only have 2 conference losses. I still got to see a little bit more as we keep going down the street. I thought that win Saturday against Ole Miss was massive. The game against Texas – I thought Texas would win it. I thought it was a bad spot for Missouri. Again, they just came off a phenomenal week of beating Florida on the road, crushing Arkansas. They get ranked for the first time. You're going on the road. against a team that can score, as we saw with, they have scorers. They at least have two that can go off on any night like Texas. So I think it was just a tough spot, but I think they've been playing some pretty good basketball though across the board. Got them at 5 because I think they're healthier than most teams, like the way Caleb Grill, obviously Tamani Bates is playing. I think across the board, they're playing good basketball right now. I don't think they finished there, though. I want to say that.
Yeah. You got to rank them week by week, though. So I definitely understand. Right now, they're 24 in the net, Dave. And so you look at what they're doing, and you've got Ole Miss ranked right ahead of them at 21 in the net. Mississippi State Ole Miss at 22, Mississippi State at 21. You've got Kentucky at 14, Texas A&M at 12. Man, these are a lot of potential tournament teams for the SEC here. Alabama at 7, Tennessee at 4, Florida at 5, and obviously Auburn at 1. Before we move on here, how many teams do you realistically now see making the tournament? Or is the SEC going to cannibalize itself here toward the end of going toward the selection process? Or does this just kind of bolster everybody's resume that everyone's so highly ranked and they're just playing each other?
Yeah, I think right now, I was telling Chris Phillips, our SEC Unfiltered Zone, Chris, I think it's going to be 11. I feel pretty good. I'm counting it down right now. Ooh. Auburn, Alabama, Florida. And I know that there's some of the bracketologists aren't there yet to locking in a team. Obviously, I think Auburn, Alabama, or Florida are locks. But I think we can count. I think I'd be a little shocked at this moment right now, Mike, if you told me Missouri didn't make the tournament. I think they'll make the tournament. I think Tennessee does, Mississippi State. I think Vandy does right now. I think Ole Miss and I think A&M. Well, I'll hold out on that. I'm not 100% sold on Vandy yet, so I'm going to add them and add Ole Miss, A&M, and Kentucky. That's 9. And I think we got Vanderbilt. If you added Vanderbilt, you'd be sitting there at 10. But I'm going to say 9 officially. And I think the big question mark here is, Mike, I think how do the teams of Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia finish? Those are kind of the 3. And sorry, I'm going to say 4. Vandy, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia. How many of those 4 teams get into the tournament? If it's 2, because for it to be 11, 2 of those 4, for it to be what some people are saying, like 13 at times, all 4 of those teams are going to have to start collecting some wins. And as you know, Mike, I don't know if at some point it's so hard to collect wins in this league. Someone's got to lose games. And I think at least 1, if not 2 of those group of 4 of Vandy, Oklahoma, Georgia, in Texas don't just start collecting some losses, especially as we talked about the road games in this league.
Yeah. Georgia sitting at 35 in the net, Vandy sitting at 37. So firmly within that top 64. It's going to be interesting to see again, if they slide any, again, the strength of the conference definitely bodes well for these teams. So as they begin to lose games, do they fall that far? Because everybody's playing quad 1 and the worst quad 2 games here, Dave, down the stretch. Auburn has as many as 7 quad 1 opportunities still left on the schedule toward the end of the season. So they have a chance to win the most quad 1 games, I think, since they started the quad system back in the 18-19 season. Fascinating stuff. Dave Shoemake from SEC Unfiltered. Look, after a quick word from our sponsors, we're going to talk about the Auburn Tigers. They had a big game this weekend, and they didn't move in your power rankings. They stayed at number 1. But, guys, this episode of the War Report is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has you covered. If you were watching Auburn versus Tennessee this weekend and you were stressed out, the Rogue Shop could have helped keep you calm. Our guy Richard, they're longtime sponsors of the channel. We appreciate him for sponsoring us. Also, our friends at Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant. If the Rogue Shop gives you the munchies, visit our friends at Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant. You can find them at 1220 Fox Renal, Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. Great eat, sweet treats. Los Amigos Restaurant, also a great place to watch the game. TVs everywhere. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. And last but certainly not least, our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up to get 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off. Fire pits and Kamada grills. Golden's Cast Iron making lifetime products there in the community. Great sponsors. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Dave, the Auburn Tigers are number 1, and they stayed number 1 in your rankings. They should be number 1 in the net and in the AP when that poll releases here at any minute. What did you see on Saturday? This was kind of an anomalous game for Auburn offensively. Miles Kelly, Chad Baker-Mazara, Tahad Pettiford, and Denver Jones are combined 0 for 19 at the half, and they still won. But Johni Broome made his return, played on one leg, and scored a double-double. Auburn is the best team in the country still at this point. I don't think it's particularly close.
No, I completely agree with you, Mike. I think it showed in a way. I think initially I took it as, man, it was kind of an ugly, sloppy game. And I think it was offensively. But as me and you talked a little bit off air, I think it shows to go win the national championship, and that's certainly Auburn's goals right now. Obviously, they're one of the few teams that can do it, I think. You got to go win 6 games. And obviously, the further you go, the tougher the competition it is. And your offense ain't going to show up every night. Now, maybe you'll get lucky, and it will. But I think you're going to have a night where your defense, like which Auburn has consistently shown they can do every day. They're just a well-rounded team, and I think it shows that, hey, even the team who can drag you into the mud, and it's kind of in their DNA like Tennessee, they'll drag you and play into their style, but you still came out the victor playing really what Tennessee wants to do. I mean, this was an Auburn team scoring mostly in the 80s. So, I mean, it shows they can go win these games in the 60s too. And maybe some point, Sweet 16, Elite 8 at some point, Final Four, I don't know, national championship game. You're probably going to have to play one of these games, and you're going to win when you didn't bring your best offensive performance. I think it shows they can do that. So, I mean, initially I took sloppy offensive game, but as time's gone on since that game on Saturday night, it's kind of been like, well, you can win different styles now, a little bit of a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. Johni Broome was the story of this one. Again, some speculation about whether he would play in this one. He played 16 points, 13 rebounds, a few blocks. He was unbelievable, and he was clearly not 100%, Dave. Defensively, looking at him on that leg, on that ankle, you could tell he didn't want to plan. He didn't want to jump. I think that Tennessee got some things down low that they wouldn't normally get because Johni couldn't defend the way that he would normally defend down there, trying to protect that ankle a little bit. How risky was this for Auburn to play Johni Broome tonight? I thought he would sit. He didn't start. He came off the bench. I thought he would sit. I thought they could win without him. They definitely would not have won without him. But this was a chance. They rolled the dice putting him into this game. It paid off. They won. He didn't get hurt.
No, they would not have won that game if they didn't get every rebound point they needed from Johni Broome. Again, yeah, that is for sure. I'm with you though. I thought going in they probably could have won the game without him because I just always talk about the team. The thing that scares me with this Tennessee team is their offensive ceiling. I knew Auburn could defend Tennessee really well, and it's like Bruce Pearl said, like they missed Johni Broome the most offensively because his ability to develop the last 3 years coming over from Morehead State has gotten better each year, more patience on the offensive end. One of the elite passers is a big man. He's the facilitator of that offense. And Bruce is right. They missed him more. I think the defense, I mean, you still got Cardwell. I mean, you still got Chaney Johnson down there that can do some stuff. And obviously your guards will still guard. But like offensively, you could tell if they didn't have him on Saturday night, the way they were shooting, the guards were shooting. Yeah, it'd have been a tough performance. I mean, it would have been very similar to, I can't remember how many points they scored total last year. Was the Kentucky game? They struggled some offensively last year at home, the one they dropped. But yeah, I mean, you're right. They needed every ounce of Johni Broome. Very impressive performance. Again, just showing why I think he's the best player in the country.
Right now, as it stands, Auburn sits atop the SEC at 6-0 in conference. Alabama right behind them. Dave, that Iron Bowl of basketball is stacking up to maybe be the game of the year. I think that game is turning into what we thought Auburn, Tennessee was going to be 2 weeks ago before Tennessee started dropping games. Alabama is holding serve. Florida, again, 5-2 in conference, Missouri 5-2 in conference, Tennessee 4-3 in conference. SEC is absolutely crushing it right now. And I think 11, I'm with you, 11 in, but whether they get more than that will depend on how, Georgia and some of these other teams fare down the stretch. Dave, I want to thank you for joining me today to talk about this week's SEC Unfiltered Power Rankings. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Mike, I appreciate you joining me, man. I love the War Report. Go find me at Dave Shoemake SEC on Twitter. Then go check us out on the SEC Unfiltered channel, guys. The road to 20,000 subscribers. We need you. We need you to keep chipping away at that. We're not too far off. But again, we're the best SEC entity around. SEC football, basketball, and baseball, as Mike knows, just around the corner here in about 2.5 weeks. Will be first pitch there for the Auburn Tigers. Butch Thompson and the boys should be pretty good. So I can't wait to see Harrison, Chris cover that. But I'm the lead basketball analyst there at the SEC Unfiltered. So go give us a like, subscribe, and appreciate you joining us. We react to every day on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday night, and look forward to seeing you there.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. TW4 on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.